So the Miami Heat have officially made a player available for trade before Thursday's trade deadline. The Miami Heat win another game yesterday against the Orlando Magic. What's up, you guys? Ernest here, back with another Miami Heat Talk video. Excited, you guys, because we're going to start rocking and rolling on another Miami Heat Talk adventure. But you know what I'm going to ask? Click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Would really help your boy grow this channel. We are almost 100 subscribers away from the big 3,000 goal. So I want to thank you guys for helping me get there. Now, last night was a great night for Heat fans. We saw the Miami Heat dominate the Orlando Magic 121-95, bringing our record to 27-24. Now, last night was a big deal, you guys, because it was the final game against the Magic this season as far as the rivalry stands goes. The Miami Heat do have, I think we play Orlando one more time, I'm not sure. But I do know that the Miami Heat do have the lead when it comes to the record breaking between the Orlando Magic. So that's good because we are tied with the Magic, 27-24, but the Miami Heat did obtain the 7th seed last night. Now, when you look at the standings, it's a pretty far gap between the 5th seed and the 6th seed. Right now, the Heat are a game and a half down from Indiana from the 6th seed. And if you want me to be honest, you guys, the 6th seed is the perfect spot for the Miami Heat. Here's why. First and foremost, if you obtain the 6th seed, you don't play in the play-in tournament. That's a big deal for the Heat. You don't want to play extra games come playoff time. Secondly, as a Miami Heat fan and as a guy that wants to play the best teams, I want a rematch in the Eastern Conference Finals. I want Miami versus Boston. And the only way that we can get there is if we are on the opposite side of Boston towards the bracket. So you got to stay away from seeds like number 4, number 5, and number 8. If the Miami Heat obtain the 6th seed, you're playing the 3rd seed in the first round. Then you play the winner between the 2nd and the 7th seed in the second round. And then you'll get Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. I know Boston will make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Their squad is loaded. I'm not fazed from Boston. I just love this rivalry. So if you guys want me to be honest, the 6th seed is the perfect seed for the Miami Heat. Now, of course, I'd like to get a higher seeding. Home court advantage for the first round would be great. We don't know what's going to happen in the second half of the season, but it's something to monitor. Now, last night you had great games. 7 players hit over double figures. We get led by Jimmy Buckets, 23 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals. Bam Adebayo not playing the way he's been playing towards the first half of the year, but he does his job. He's 14 points, 8 rebounds, a plus 32 out there. He only takes 9 shots, 7 for 9. So we want to see Bam be a little bit more aggressive, especially towards the paint. He's our big guy, but you got to give flowers to Terry Rozier. In my opinion, that's player of the game. 18 points. 7 assists, 6 rebounds, a steal, a plus 21 out there. Rozier is looking more acclimated with this team. I mean, he's showing you that he's obviously a better option than Kyle Lowry. I know that we lost 4 straight games when we first got him as a part of that 7-game losing streak. But it's like I said, Rozier needs to get more acclimated with this team. And one thing I'm noticing is that Tyler Hero last night, he does give you 14 points, 6 for 13 shooting, 2 for 5 from the 3-point line. He's a plus 22 out there, but Tyler Hero is taking a step back as a ball-dominant player. He's allowing Rozier to control more with the ball. And if you guys want me to be honest, Rozier is the more natural point guard of the two. So I would prefer Terry Rozier being the ball-dominant point guard leading this team. He's kind of a younger version of Kyle Lowry, a faster version of Kyle Lowry. We need him to be the quarterback 1 out there. We need him to be more aggressive. Jimmy Butler said in the post-game that he wants Terry Rozier to not worry about stepping on toes. He wants Rozier to be his dominant self. So the more you're hearing this from Heat players, the more you're seeing Spo trust more in Rozier. The second half of the season after the All-Star break, you guys, you're going to see a different Miami Heat team. Now, another thing that I noticed that was different yesterday is that Miami went with a different starting rotation. We barely played Haywood Highsmith, which I think is the way to go. Highsmith is a great defender, but as the starting power forward, it just ain't working. We did win 7 straight games with Highsmith earlier this season, but if you guys remember, that was towards a more favorable schedule. You're noticing that when you're paying teams, especially that have size, Highsmith isn't the option. Now, Caleb Martin gets the starting nod over Haywood Highsmith. He gives you 11 points. Kevin Love gives you 7 points off the bench, 1 for 7 for 3. You know, if Love's hit more 3-point shots, it'd be a better game, so I'm not worried about Love. Jaquez and Richardson do their things off the bench. Richardson gives you 13. Jaime Jaquez gives you 12. Great solid game from the Miami Heat all around. You wish this is the Heat team that you can see moving forward. We are not a team that's just a one-trick pony. We have multiple guys that on any given night can drop 20, maybe even 30 points on you. So this is the type of Miami Heat offense I like to see. We just need to make it more consistent. Now, the reason that I'm mentioning the lineup change, Spo did use a 9-man rotation, and in my opinion, it's the best 9-man rotation to go with. That starting lineup is your optimal lineup. Butler, Martin, Adebayo, Rozier, Hero. You guys know my opinion. I prefer Hero to be slided to the 6-man rotation to start either Duncan Robinson or Jaime Jaquez. But that's my opinion. Spo's the coach of the team. After that starting 5, like I mentioned, you have Robinson, you have Jaquez, you have Richardson, and you have Love coming off the bench. In my opinion, those are our best 9 players. You can sprinkle a little Nikola Jovic and Haywood Highsmith out there. I would hope Nikola Jovic does eventually take the starting power forward position simply because of his size and what he can do. Now, when we're talking about the power forward position, there's another thing that's coming up. The trade deadline on Thursday. And as of yesterday, it was reported that the Miami Heat have placed Caleb Martin on the trade block. They are fielding offers for Caleb Martin. Now, we've talked about this before. We've talked about that Caleb Martin is pretty much the only player right now who has a tradable contract who possibly can be moved by the Miami Heat. Now, if you want me to be honest, I do think other players are in that mix as well. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, these are players that if you have an opportunity to upgrade in the power forward position, get somebody who's amazing next to Bam, then you make that deal. But the problem is, you guys, there's not really a lot of power forwards out there that are available for trades. You have little sprinklings here and there, but nobody is really available. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to give you guys a few ideas of trade options. I want to give you guys a few options of trades for players that have been mentioned on the trade block. Now, these first 2 players I'm going to talk about is going to be quick because I've mentioned them in previous videos. So if you want my full takes on them, just go back, watch those videos. First and foremost, you have Kyle Kuzma from the Washington Wizards. Now, a trade surrounding Kyle Kuzma and Caleb Martin won't work because of the salary numbers. Kyle Kuzma's making $25 million this season. Caleb's making only about 7. So the way that you make that work is by aggregating players. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but this trade does work financially. You can take Caleb Martin, who's expiring. You can also attach Duncan Robinson to give Washington a shooter to build on for the future. And with those 2 players, you are able to get Kyle Kuzma on this team. Why does that work? Well, you can slide Kyle Kuzma in the starting 4. He's 6'9", 221 pounds, gives you everything you need. It's a viable power forward next to Bam Adebayo and next to Jimmy Butler in the front court. You can still plug in Rozier and Hero in the starting lineup. That's probably one of the best starting lineups in the NBA. Now, because there's only 1 basketball and 5 of those guys average over 20 points a game, my opinion, you move Tyler as the 6th man, start Jaime Jaquez. If you do that, you have an obsolete starting lineup with one of the best 6-man players in history coming off the bench. Those 6 players, along with Josh Richardson, Kevin Love, Haywood Highsmith, that's going to be a problem moving forward. If I understand that losing Caleb Martin and Duncan Robinson is huge, but Kyle Kuzma makes up for it, and then by losing Caleb and Duncan Robinson, now Haywood Highsmith has more of an opportunity to play his natural position, to be a wing defender, to be a guy that you can plug in wherever you want. I love Haywood Highsmith, not as a starting power forward. As a role player coming off the bench to defend against the best player, I'm all for it. So that's one option. Here's another option. Let's say you can't trade for a big. What's another thing this Miami Heat team needs? A defensive stopping point guard. Now, I believe that what we have is good enough. We don't really need to trade for a backup point guard, but we have an abundance of wings. So we can trade one of our defensive wing players to get an upgrade in something we need. Tyus Jones, another player from the Washington Wizards who Washington is fielding offers for. I got a trade that'll work because Tyus Jones makes about $14 million on the last year of his contract. So if you're the Miami Heat, you can just basically swap expiring contracts for expiring contracts. You can take Caleb Martin, attach Thomas Bryant for Tyus Jones. Maybe the Miami can throw in a future first round pick swap, maybe a future second round pick. That's a possibility as well, just to maybe entice Washington more. There's no way you send an unprotected first round draft pick for Tyus Jones. Absolutely not. But a pick swap may work. So that's another option. And that's the only option if you're not able to get a big. Because if the Miami Heat trade for a Tyus Jones, and let's say you get a big in the buyout market, you're fine. You're fine moving forward. We don't need to make a huge splash in a trade, you guys. We just need to make a trade that helps this roster moving forward. We know where our bread is buttered. We know who our star players are. We just need help with certain other rotation players. Now, I got one more trade option for you guys, and this to me is the best one, the big one. The Brooklyn Nets, as of today, are not in playoff contention. The Brooklyn Nets have been fielding offers for certain players. One of those players that they are fielding offers for, but most likely not willing to give up. But let's see. Nic Claxton. Now, we talked about Nic Claxton on the Miami Heat roundtable a few days ago, but I want to talk about him individually. Nic Claxton would be the perfect player for the Miami Heat to trade for. Nic Claxton is 6'10". He's averaging 12.5 points a game, 10.5 rebounds, 2.5 block shots, which is something we desperately need, some paint dominant presence. He's also averaging 63% from the field, 57% from the free throw line. He's trash at the free throw line, but you make up for it. But one thing that he does bring is a big presence down low. Now, you can go back to the 90s style. You can start Nic Claxton with Bam Adebayo in the front court and be lethal. You can start Kevin Love next to Bam Adebayo and have Nic Claxton come off the bench. Maybe if Nic Claxton comes, he eats away from Kevin Love's minutes, but it does give us the perfect backup center when Bam Adebayo goes to the bench. There's a lot of times that you can play both Bam and Nic Claxton together out there. Nic Claxton gives you the flexibility to move your lineup and be different, but also to compete with some of the big teams out there. And if the Miami Heat get to the NBA Finals and you play a Denver Nuggets again, you play a Phoenix Suns, you play an LA Clippers or something like that, or maybe even an OKC Thunder, Nic Claxton is going to be big for this Miami Heat team. So those are the 3 trade ideas that I have. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments. Do you think that any one of those are doable, or maybe there's somebody else that you're thinking about? I know a lot of you yesterday were talking about Vooch from the Chicago Bulls. I would love to bring Vucevic on this team, but the problem is he doesn't seem to be available. If it happens, fantastic. I would love to do a trade for Vucevic. I just don't think it's in the cards for the Miami Heat. All of these players that I'm talking about, you guys, have been fielded by their teams, and they are showing interest in trades. So I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. But please, guys, don't forget to smash the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Would really help me out. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers. When we get there, I got another present for you guys. You know how I love to do things differently here on the Miami Heat Talk channel, you guys. So I try to make you as happy as possible. So thank you. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, your boy Ernest out. That's enough said. Let's go Heat.